He controlled more land than any man alive. He commanded armies across 4 continents. He had the power to execute anyone, take anything, and answer to no one. And every single morning before the sun was fully up, Marcus Aurelius sat down in the dark, alone, and wrote in a private journal that he never intended anyone to read. Not to record his victories, not to plan his campaigns, but to remind himself of everything he still hadn't mastered, to confess his failures, to start again. What you are about to hear is how the most powerful man in the world chose to train his mind and why it still works today. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD to a family close to the Roman elite. By the time he was a young boy, the Emperor Hadrian had already noticed something in him, a seriousness that most children didn't carry. He was given the finest tutors in the empire: philosophy, rhetoric, law, mathematics, but the subject that took hold of him most deeply, the one that would shape every day of his adult life, was Stoicism. Stoicism was not a comfortable philosophy. It did not promise happiness or ease. It taught instead that the only thing a person truly owns is their response to what happens to them. That circumstances are outside your control, that your mind is not. Marcus absorbed this idea completely, and then, unusually, he decided to live it. Not just study it, not just quote it, actually live it every day under pressure, in public while running the known world. He became emperor at 39. The empire he inherited was immediately under attack. Germanic tribes in the north, plague spreading through the legions, political instability at the borders. For most of his reign, he was not in Rome. He was at the front, leading campaigns in miserable conditions, far from the comforts of the palace. And it was in those camps, cold, exhausted, surrounded by death, that he continued to write. What he was writing is known today as the Meditations. It has been in continuous publication for nearly 2,000 years. It is read by presidents, generals, athletes, and monks. It is the private journal of a man trying every single day to become better than he was the day before. Here is what makes it extraordinary. He was not writing for an audience. He was writing instructions to himself, commands, corrections, reminders of things he kept forgetting. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wrote that not to inspire others, but because he needed to hear it again. His morning practice was built around one core habit. Before the day began, before the demands, the decisions, the people who needed something from him, he would sit quietly and prepare his mind for what was coming. He called this the premeditation of adversity. He would imagine in detail everything that might go wrong that day, the difficult person he would have to meet, the frustrating news he might receive, the failure that might arrive without warning. Not to dwell in fear, but to remove the shock, because the Stoics believed that the most destabilizing thing that can happen to a mind is surprise. When you have already imagined the difficulty, it loses its power to break you. He also practiced something he called the view from above. He would mentally pull himself upward, out of the room, out of the city, out of the empire, until he could see his own problems from a vast enough distance that they shrank to their actual size. A political enemy who insulted him, a physical illness that slowed him down, a war that seemed endless. From far enough above, these things looked different. Not unimportant, but proportionate. Every evening, he reviewed the day, not to celebrate, not to condemn, but to examine honestly. Where had he acted from his values? Where had he slipped? What would he do differently tomorrow? This evening review was not self punishment, it was calibration. The difference matters enormously. Self punishment makes you smaller, calibration makes you more precise. He reigned for 19 years. He faced plague, war, betrayal, and the deaths of several of his children. He was never recorded as having broken down, never recorded as having taken revenge out of anger, never recorded as having used his absolute power for personal cruelty. This was not because he was born without anger or grief. The meditations make clear that he felt all of it. He simply refused to act from those feelings before he had examined them. He died in 180 AD, still on campaign, far from Rome. His last recorded words were a question to those around him. Why do you weep for me? Think rather of the pestilence and the deaths of so many others. Even at the end, the mind was outward, still measuring, still asking. He left behind an empire and a journal. The empire is gone, the journal remains. Think about your own mornings. Most of us begin the day as passengers. We reach for the phone before our feet touch the floor. We let the noise in before we have established any quiet. We react to the day before we have decided how we intend to meet it. Marcus Aurelius, with more responsibility than any of us will ever carry, chose differently. He chose 5 minutes of silence first, a question, an intention, a reminder of what actually matters. Not because he had time, but because he understood that everything else depended on those 5 minutes. You don't need to be an emperor to use this. You need a quiet space, something to write with, and the honesty to ask yourself the same question Marcus asked every morning. Who do I want to be today? And what is standing between me and that? This is the Library of Ash, where the forgotten are remembered and the ancient speak to the present. Stay in the archive.